Hello, Mr. Narayan. I'm so glad you could join us this evening.
It's my pleasure. I'm always glad to know there are people interested in the work I do.
Well, that there are. So my goal tonight is to kind of get a better sense of what's going through your head when you wrote the guide. As far as different culture elements go, as well regarded, as well as with regard to political and economic constructs there that were underway at the time. But let's start off with something more simple, such as the extent to which you tried to incorporate themes from your own life into the novel. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, in this particular story, there weren't many connections that I made from my own life, but rather there were connections that I made in it from observing others around me growing up. I moved around a lot in my relative youth, first from India, where I was born, to the U.S., but then periodically while living in the U.S., just to keep up with my parents' ever-changing work schedule. However, the real essence of the characters in this novel stems from seeing those people around me, such as the shop owners, the clerks, the merchants, etc. I wanted to explore life through their eyes, a life where they essentially live to serve others. What I discovered is that, in a sense, we all do. We live to help ourselves by helping others. Essentially, that's what a job is. So that was definitely a central theme of the story that was derived from my life in this novel.
Interesting. All right, from having read this book myself, I can see the points where it seems you drew from the past part of your life. I want to delve deeper into the moving from India to the United States. What is the transition like for you and your family? What was different or similar from the ways of India?
That's a good question. When you're born as a boy in America, there's a sense of legacy. There's a sense of carrying on a family tradition. You always hear the phrase, following in your father's footsteps.
Of course.
Essentially suggesting that as the man of your family, you must one day further the accomplishments of your father, just as he did the accomplishments of his father before him. Basically, there's an innate sense of tradition in America. In India, that isn't the case. One can't simply just achieve a higher status in society by working hard because of the caste system. There's no aspiration to be in any social class higher than the one you were born into because it simply can't happen. So that's a big element that I found present in America.
That was the biggest difference? I mean, it's no question that India and the United States are countries with very different social structures. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I would like to think that if I were a writer living in the U.S. my whole life, that the strength of my writing would still have been able to make me a decent living. The fact of the matter is, however, that the level of competition is a lot higher in the U.S., and there are many more aspiring writers. The social structure of India is such that one can succeed at attaining notability in his or her own caste, but when it comes to overall popularity, there isn't much room for people such as myself. That room is generally taken up by those in the highest castes. So there's certainly a sense of restriction that is prevalent in India. Not to say it's as bad as it used to be, though metaphorically speaking, you could compare it to a bird trying to fly with clipped wings. It isn't going to get very far. Or rather, a bird in an enclosed room. It can fly around as much as it wants, but no matter how hard it tries, it cannot elevate itself higher than the confines of the ceiling. I think that's the only thing that I'm bitter about with regard to India. In the U.S., there's not really the same sense of boundaries.
Right. That's an interesting perspective. I think that's very helpful to those watching who have not yet read the book because it gives them a sense of where you're coming from with certain themes or points of view. I really appreciate you taking time to speak with me tonight. I wish you many more years of success as a writer. You've certainly inspired me and many others to look at life in a different way.
And thank you so much for the opportunity.
This is Chetty Betcher coming at you. Chetty Betcher coming at you.